So, Paul, we're so pleased to have you on. God bless you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining me here for tonight and just having a desire to learn about how to do better. Now, whether you're just looking to add more fruits and vegetables to your diet or you're looking to go all raw, it's a great investment to make in your own health. When a lot of people are younger, they don't really think about that investment or the importance of that because no matter what they eat, they feel great. But what they're doing at that point is determining their future health. And we might be older than a young person, but still what we're doing now will determine our health years from now. The difference is a young person that's not eating healthy and not making that investment in the health, it will show up as some form of disease, maybe the beginning stages, the end stages, or the middle stage of a disease. However, when we're older, like we all are here, I think, those, I don't want to say mistakes, but lack of caring about that investment can determine really like not struggling with disease, but the difference between life or death. So, it's like when you make an investment, when you're investing with money, you could take more risk when you're younger. Well, when you're older, you got to be more careful in the type of investment you make. But when it comes to a health standpoint, it's kind of opposite. When you're younger, you don't have to take that investment risk or chance to see what's going to happen. You have more time. But when you're older, you need to make that investment immediately because this is our health and you can change your health around. I want to give you an example. One of the people I've interviewed in my book, because besides the great way that the lady just introduced the different men in my book and the concept of the book, and I'll talk about the book in a few moments, is Dr. Fred Bishy. Now, I interviewed Dr. Fred Bishy. Currently, he's 94 years old, or 95 years old, 94. He's been raw vegan for 60 years. He's in absolutely amazing shape. He's 100% raw vegan. And then I give you an example of my father. My father is 83 years old and not interested in health or nutrition at all. His health guru is the news. Whatever they say on the news, he does. Thankfully so, praise be a wonderful creator, which he has not been diagnosed with the disease. But this man complains about his health all day long. Because if the news says he's sick, he's sick. And he's just complaining. He's always going to doctors and so much and just always complaining. And Dr. Fred Bishy, 94 years old, you never hear him complain. And it's the health is the investment. And I will tell you, it's not just diet alone. Because like this lady was just reading, what was her name? The lady who was just reading? Okay, I can't hear you. But the lady who was just reading, she was talking about things like Sunshine Man and Mental Man or Mind Man and all these. I know people that don't eat healthy, but they're much healthier than people that do because of their attitude and because of the non-dietary things that they're doing. It is essential you're looking at these other aspects of health and not just the food. Now, I wrote this book. This was the first book I wrote, and I want to talk a little about it. I think some of you have been reading it. It's, at the time I was into boxing. Just for my exercise at the time was getting punched in the face. So that's what I was doing. And I was 19 years old. I had ulcerative colitis, which is also known as inflammatory bowel disease or Crohn's disease. The doctors had me on these medications, these steroids, and all these medications. They were controlling my disease. Every time I ate something I shouldn't be eating, I got sick. They said, well, just take this medicine and you'll get better. They didn't tell me diet had anything to do with it or anything else. But then somebody told me that if I changed the way I eat, my condition would begin to heal. At the time, I was working on Wall Street. I had a lot of stress in my life. And it just, life wasn't good. And I was in a lot of pain. And I didn't know anything about health at all. And I say that because when you read the book, it's for people at least the first part of the book, is people that don't know where to begin. They don't know where to start. So I was writing the book, and the first thing I did is I had to get information for the book, because the first person that told me diet had something to do with it, I asked my doctor if there's any connection between my diet and my condition. And she said there were no medical studies to prove any connection between your diet and your condition. And I found that interesting because she never asked me what my diet was. So how did she know? And somebody told me if I stopped eating animals, my condition would begin to heal. Well, no, first they told me dairy. If I stopped eating dairy, my condition would begin to heal. And I didn't even know what dairy was at the time. That's how naive I was about health. And then I found out dairy wasn't just milk, because it says right there in the container, dairy milk. But I found out it was ice cream and butter and cheese and all these things. And I realized I had a lot of dairy in my diet. I needed to do something about this. So I asked my doctor if there's any connection between consuming dairy and my condition. And she said there's no medical studies to prove there's any connection between consuming dairy and your condition. So that's when I finally got wise. And without telling my doctor, I stopped consuming dairy and I started to get sick less often. So when that happened, I made two connections. The first connection I made was that diet did have something to do with my health. And the next connection I made was my doctor really doesn't know about health. So then, because Dr. Fred Bishy taught me, health doesn't begin with you add to your diet. It's what you eliminate. Eliminate the cause and the problem's going to go away. So somebody told me if I stopped eating animals, my condition would continue to get better. I asked my doctor, is there any connection between eating animals and my condition? And she says there's no medical studies to prove any connection between consuming animals and your condition. So without telling her, I decided to stop consuming animals. And I started to get sick less often. This doctor was amazing. Every time she told me something, I did the opposite and I would get better. And I tell everybody here, if you want to be the healthiest person around, go to the most popular doctor you can find. And whatever they say, do the opposite. Now, I hope there aren't too many doctors watching here tonight, but some doctors are wonderful. If I get an emergency room, don't tell me to eat an apple, send me to the hospital if I get in an accident or something. But if I'm going to put something in my body and I get sick from it, the answer isn't to take a drug. The answer is to stop putting that in your body. But because of the brainwashing and everything that's going on, we don't know what that is. We don't know what we're eating is bad or good. We're told something is good. The advertisers who spend their whole life marketing to us, telling us what's good, is really not good. Go back to my dad, who is like many people, and he just watches the news, whatever the news says, whatever the news says. So he's been brainwashed by the news and the doctors. I mean, literally, I live not too far from my dad. I try to see him whenever I can. I'm very busy. I speak to him every day, but I don't get to see him often. But literally, this man sees his doctors more than he sees me. and he listens to them more than he listens to me. So his food of choice is Wheaties. He loves his Wheaties. So I said, Dad, in Wheaties, they put a spray on the wheat that you're eating that has glycophages and all this other stuff that causes cancer and all these other things. He goes, well, I didn't hear that on the news. How could that be true? I said, who do you think's sponsoring the news? The people that are selling the Wheaties. And he said, that can't be true. So I said, Dad, in the health food store, they have the same exact wheat, the same exact style of food. It's in the same type of box, the same type of packaging, but it doesn't have these cancer-causing glycophages in there. I'll get you these so you don't have to eat those. And he says, is it called Wheaties? I said, no. He goes, well, I don't want it. I said, but Dad, it's the same ingredients. He goes, if it's not Wheaties, I don't want to hear about it. Now, I can guarantee you, if he turned on the news tonight and there was a big report that Wheaties causes cancer, he'd be calling me up the next day saying, I got to stop eating Wheaties. I've been telling this for years about this, and he just doesn't get it. Now, thankfully, he doesn't eat as bad as the standard American diet, but he doesn't eat good. He tells me all the time, he goes, I eat a certain amount of vegetables every single day. He eats vegetables. He can't even imagine eating vegetables raw. He doesn't even know what raw means. He's like, how could you eat spinach raw? He tells me. I'm like, I eat it raw, but he cooks everything. He cooks everything, but he eats a lot of fruits and vegetables, but he doesn't, well, mostly vegetables, which contributes to him probably not being so sick, but he never gets organic food. He thinks it's a waste of money. He doesn't know the difference. He doesn't get it. So I try to reason with him. I said, Dad, let me go under your sink. Give me that can of roach spray under your sink. Dad, give me an apple. I'll spray the apple with this roach spray. Would you eat this? Absolutely not, because he saw me spray with roach spray. Don't worry, Dad. I'll just clean it up with the water, and then you could eat it. Would you eat it then? He said, absolutely not. I said, well, what do you think you're eating when you're eating unorganic food? That can't be true. Why not? Because I didn't hear about that on the news. This is the thinking. Unless you're wearing a white coat, pretty much people aren't going to listen to you. And I tried this out once. I put on a white coat and I walked into a Walgreens or something, one of those Walgreens or CVS's. And I was walking there with a white coat. And people started stopping me and asking me questions. Excuse me, is this good? Or what could I take for this? What could I take for that? So I'm thinking maybe I should be going to my dad's house in a white coat. Well, I did one thing once. I once actually got on the news. I was on the news. I said, Dad, I'm on the news. I figured he's going to listen to me now because I am the news. So the news interviewed me about eating raw food and about making raw food and about being so healthy. So I said, Dad, I was on the news. Did you see me? So you're going to stop eating your Wheaties and your unorganic food and all this stuff? He said, you were saying that, but they didn't say that. It wasn't from them. I'm like, oh, Dad. So I use him as an example, and thankfully he's not been diagnosed with anything, but I don't know. He's made it to 83, but it's the future looks much brighter for somebody like Dr. Fred Bishey or these other people I interviewed that are eating healthy. And we all hear about somebody that's eating healthy and they don't live long or they get a disease. And that doesn't help my story. Hey, Dad, eat healthy. Well, I know this guy that was eating healthy and he died or he got a disease. So that can't be good. And I'm like, oh, diet isn't a panacea. Just because you eat healthy doesn't mean you're going to live long. You got to make sure you found the other aspects of health. And this is I have found actually, sleep and exercise to be even more important than diet, believe it or not. I know a lot of people that get good sleep and good exercise and they eat terrible. But when you're sleeping, your body is healing and cleansing and dealing with this, and you need to sleep a lot. And exercise keeps you fit and healthy and your bones healthy. And they're able to get away with this for a long time. And then I know people that eat healthy, but they don't get enough sleep. They don't get enough exercise, and they're not doing too well. Think about this, everybody. How amazing would it be is if we can get enough sleep, get enough exercise, and eat healthy? Wow. Wow. It's not difficult to eat healthy. So when I was writing this book, The Raw Life, I was explaining to people, and my goal is to explain to people how to do this. And I'm telling everyone right now, no matter what your age is, it's a mental thing. It's all in the mind. Anyone has the power to pick up a fork or a chopstick or your fingers and eat food. They've taken away a lot of things we can do, and they try to take away a lot of things we do, but we still have the ability to go to the store or to grow our own food and to put that food in our own mouths. We need to think about what we're putting in our mouth, but more important, we need to think about what we're putting in our mind. Because if you think an apple or a banana is not enough to sustain you, that you need to have potatoes and meat, you've already been brainwashed. And that's the way society is. You want to get people sick. I tell people I haven't had dairy for like 30 years and I think they're going to have a heart attack the way their response is. They're like, you got to get to a hospital. You need dairy to live. I'm like, I don't. I remember Dr. Fred Bishey told me once he went to this place in Canada and he was lecturing there. And there was somebody that didn't know who he was, but the guy thought he knew everything. And they made a statement. They said, oh, you can't live a long time on a vegan diet. And I remember Dr. Bishy's response was, at the time, his response was, "Oh, really? Thank you very much. Thanks for telling me. Thanks for letting me know." The guy's in his 90s. So when I was writing this book, I was thinking that the mind aspect of this and how to reach children. That's why I have these pictures in here and everything else. And it seems so simple to those of us that know these things. Seem so simple about eating the high fats and the wrong type of fats, and eating the animals and eating the things we shouldn't be eating. But then there's the things that we're not too sure about. The things that people go back and forth on it and not too sure about. So we have the opponents, or the things, the habits we got to break. And what I was recommending in the book, and to a degree now, it depends what type of person you are. But some people could do it overnight. I was going to give up eating food, and they just do that. Very disciplined people. But other people need some more structure. So I'd say don't start, you can start with the easiest or the hardest, whatever. Get rid of something in your diet or your lifestyle that's not good for you. It takes maybe 3 weeks to change a habit, create better habits. So this month it's going to be coffee. Next month it's going to be meat. Next month it's going to be dairy. Next month it'll be TV. All these things that are impacting your life, try to get rid of them, and make good habits out of these things. And then going beyond foods, there's the obvious, the alcohol, the cigarettes, and all the mass alcohol and drugs out there today. I don't want to say I'm getting older, but I know coffee's no good. I never had a cup of coffee in my life. I did have a couple of times when I was younger. There was a soda called Jolt where I had like triple the caffeine, and it worked. But I never really I got all the way from soda because of cavities and things like this. But now they have drinks called Monster Drink and all these type of things going out there. And it's like, what? It's just crazy. And then I think about this. So that's the kid thing today. The kid thing today is the Monster Drinks and all this. Wherever we go, and this is what the marketers do. If you see somebody with coffee in their hand, you just assume they're older. You don't see too many 10-year-old kids walking around with coffee. It's just like an older thing. Well, these drinks, these energy drinks, they're like younger drinks. This is what the marketers do. How are we going to get people to addicted to caffeine? Well, they're not drinking coffee because it's like the older drink. Well, let's give them a Monster or some other type of energy drink. And think about that. Your grandkids, your children, unfortunately, a lot of them are drinking coffee, but they're not. Cigarettes and coffee are the old drugs. Now it's the vaping cigarettes and the Monster energy drinks and all this. It's just a new marketing the same type of drug and the things that we shouldn't be doing. So we got to change these things. I have a twin sister, Paul and Paula. Remember that song, Paul and Paula? That's what we were named after. My sister is more similar to my dad in listening to what the news says. And she had some bad health, and I told her I can help you. I do all this. Well, if it's not in the news, I don't want to hear about it. So, and the only reason I bring her up is because we're twins. We should be in a similar situation in life with our health and our energy and everything else. But that's not the case. And, just it's not difficult to read and get the knowledge, and then what we do with the knowledge. Then there's some confusing things like sugar man. This is a tough one because, processed white sugar is terrible for us, but it's in so many things. Processed food has processed sugar. That's what makes the food processed many times. It's deadly. It's so bad. But people say, but fruit has sugar, but it's not processed sugar. There's a big difference between an apple and an apple pie. A big difference between a carrot and a carrot cake. And people don't get that. Then you have more confusing things like the microwave oven for time. People want to save time, so they use their microwave oven. Do you know how deadly a microwave oven is? They've literally outlawed it in some parts of the world. It's so deadly. But it saves so much. If you take water and microwave that water, let it cool down and put it on a plant, that plant will die. What do you think it's doing to your body? You know, the microwave oven is so bad. I tell people, get rid of the microwave oven. They're like, well, how would I don't have time to live or do anything if I don't have a microwave oven. Microwave oven is the worst thing you could do to cook your food. You know, I tell people, get rid of your TV and get rid of your microwave oven. And people do the opposite. They're eating TV dinners while they're watching their TV. It's so bad. You know, and replace your microwave oven with a juicer and use a juicer. And hopefully many of you have juicers out there. And juicing is amazing. Absolutely amazing. This year, I learned something about juicing that I never knew before. And I'm telling you, it changes everything. People complained to me for years about juicing. It takes too much time. It's too much time to clean it and all this stuff. And I would try to say, no, it's not. And it doesn't take as much time as comparing, as making some dinner or something else that people are eating, or even eating a salad. It's much quicker to juice it. But I do admit the juices were not the best to clean or fun to clean and do all this stuff. However, there's a new technology out and there's a new juicer out called the Nama J2 juicer. And if anyone wants to get this juicer and you use the code Paul10, you'll get 10% off. It's called the Nama J2 juicer. And it absolutely has changed every way I look about juicing. I mean, it has the technology. It took me 30 seconds to clean this juicer. And you don't even have to stand there and juice it. You put the stuff in and you walk away. It's absolutely amazing. I would love to get one from my dad, but it's not spoken about on the news, so I know he'll never get one. Even if I bought him one, he won't use it because it's not spoken about on the news. So this juicer is something everybody should have. Get rid of your microwave oven, use this juicer, and you'll see how easy juicing is, and it's just absolutely amazing. So the best food for your body are the foods that are going to give your body the most nutrients while using the least amount of work to get those nutrients. Everything has nutrients, but if your body has to work really hard to get it, you're not going to be victorious in your health journey. It's not about the nutrients. It's also about how hard your body's working to get that. That's why fruits and vegetables in their raw state, raw, ripe, fresh, and organic, chewed very well, because digestion starts in the mouth with your saliva, chewed very well, is what's going to create your body to be in the best position to heal from disease and to stay healthy long term. And you could do this. But we have to think about our daily day and our daily life. It starts by getting rid of these habits and becoming natural in an unnatural world. And we can do this at any age. I have recipes in this book because I remember when I first started making raw food, I wanted to become a raw food chef. So I bought this recipe book called Dining in the Raw by this lady named Rita Romano. And at the time, there weren't many raw food recipe books out there. And I made those. And one day I was sitting in New York at a restaurant, a vegetarian restaurant, and I knew how to make recipes from this book. And I went to the restaurant. I said, is there anything raw on the menu? And the owner said, no, but I like to put raw stuff on the menu. Do you know any raw food chefs? I said, I am one. I can make raw food. So they hired me to make raw food in New York City at a vegetarian restaurant. And I was making the food, and out of the book, it was easy to make. Everyone loved it. It's if you know how to press a button on a blender and you have a knife and cutting board, you could be a raw food chef. You just follow the recipe. You don't have to cook it or anything else. It's so simple. So I was making these raw food recipes. Then I ended up getting my own restaurant in New York, the world's biggest raw food restaurant ever to exist in New York, 2 floors, which is important because we had the world's biggest people in New York. So I had my restaurant there, and my sister was there, and it was near the World Trade Center at the time. You could actually see the World Trade Center from my from my restaurant. And I said to my sister, I'm a chef at a restaurant, my own restaurant. Come and visit. She said, you mean you make salads? I said, no, I make all these fancy dishes. I can make pizza, I can make lasagna, I can make all this just from raw fruits and vegetables. I told my dad, I work at a restaurant in New York. Come on down. You mean you make salads? It's not a salad joint. I mean, there's so many different types of raw food vegetables out there that are absolutely amazing. Yes, go to namwell.com for the juicer, J2. It's a J2 juicer, and put the code Paul10, Paul 10, and you can get 10% off for that juicer. So yes, it's absolutely crazy to thinking of people and what they have and what they're doing. And I've been doing this easily for a long time because I have no desire to eat cooked food, and I have no desire to feel sick or to feel bad. And I remember when I first wrote this book, I was living in Brooklyn, in a 4-story walk up, and each floor had 2 steps. So you had to go up 2 staircases to get to one floor. So it's 8 staircases to get to the 4th floor where I lived. So I printed this book up, the first copy, 5,000 books, 80 boxes of books. I think they were like 25 pounds for each box or something like this. And a big truck comes to my house with 80 boxes of books. And I'm like, how am I going to get these upstairs? There's no elevator in the building. And these 2 big drivers that were driving it says, we could help you. I said, well, thank you. That's very nice. They definitely weren't eating raw food diet, by the way. So I called, this was like maybe in 2000, so 20-something years ago. So Dr. Fred Bishop was in his 70s at that time. I called him up. By the way, there are interviews in the book that shared the experiences with these people from 20 years ago, and I still know, and many of them today, and are still eating raw. So I called Dr. Bishop. Can you come on over and help me with these books? Sure, I'll be right over there. So I start taking the books up with these 2 big guys. I get my box, 20 pounds. I go up the steps, come back down, and they're still walking in the building. I'm going up and down. Excuse me, can I get around you? I'm going up and down with all these boxes. And there, I never seen anyone sweat so much in my life. And it was the winter time. I was like, this is crazy. These guys were going up this. It was like they couldn't carry 20 pounds up. And I'm carrying bottles of water when I get my 5-gallon bottles of water and all these books and everything. And that's when I was only raw for like a year or so. It's crazy. And so Dr. Bishop comes over, and these guys, I don't know what happened to them. They like had a heart attack and left. They couldn't do it. They had to leave, and they left me there with $100 on the side of the road. And Dr. Fred Bishop was going up and down these steps just as fast as I was, if not even faster, at 70-something years old. You know, I couldn't call my dad unless I told him the doctor was visiting me and something was on the news. He wouldn't have come. But Dr. Fred Bishop came, and we got all these books, got them in my house, and it was wonderful. And a lot of these people on my channel, I still interview a lot of them. Dr. Doug Graham, he's still around, and Dr. Brian Clement from the Hippocrates Health Institute. And in the process of doing all this, writing the book and traveling all over, I met Hiawatha Chroma, who told me all about Ann Wigmore, and just I learned a lot from Hiawatha and keeping it simple and the food simple and all these other aspects of health. But the most amazing thing I learned from Hiawatha was the greatest health book ever written. I was doing a lecture at her place, and there was a man in the audience named Baruch, and I didn't know who he was, but he says, your book is the 2nd best health book I ever read. I said, what's the first? He goes, I'll only give it to you if you promise to read it. I said, I want to know about health. Does it talk about raw food? He said, absolutely. I said, does it talk about people living a long age? He goes, absolutely. Does it talk about people eating a vegan diet? Absolutely. Does it talk about people being healed from deadly disease? Absolutely. I want this book. What is this book? He handed me the Bible. He said, there it is. Up to that point, I never read the Bible. I only knew one verse in that Bible. It was Genesis 1:29. It said, the food for man is fruits and vegetables. Well, I read the book, and I understood all about spiritual health after reading that. And my life changed that day, standing there in front of Hiawatha, in front of this man, Baruch. Wow, my life changed. Not only was I now interested in the physical health, but now I'm looking at the spiritual health. I started to realize about the spiritual warfare and all these different things. You know, where am I going to start reading this book? There's so much to read and everything else. I only knew about Genesis 1:29. Somebody said, read the Gospel of John. I read the Gospel of John. I didn't even get halfway through the book, and I accepted Jesus as my Messiah. But I was confused. I said, I'm Jewish. How could I follow Jesus? And somebody told me he's Jewish also. I said, that's going to be easy. I'm just going to do what he said to do. And he told me in the book. And I already been doing, got healed from my disease. how to get better. To pray, yes. To fast when you're sick, yes. To keep it simple. But the food, the seed-bearing fruits, the green herbs for your medicine, it's all there. And I read this. I've been applying this to my life. Now I got the spiritual health to go along. This is amazing. Everyone's going to do this. Hey, Dad, I found the answer. I'm reading the Bible. I've accepted Jesus. Who's this? This is your son. But it wasn't on the news he was watching, so I'm still praying for him on every level. And, I'm surrounded by sick people all the time because they don't want to follow the information that can get us better. And I live this. I live this out. Anyone who has spent any time with me knows how I live, and I do things a little bit different now. I don't eat as much. I eat less often. And I got high quality food, the highest quality food, because I grow my own food, much of my own food. I have many fruit trees in my yard. I've got a garden with vegetables growing. And people say, well, you can do that, but we can't grow vegetables. Hiawatha told me one of the greatest things that from Ann Big Mo she learned, everyone can grow vegetables in their kitchen, called sprouting. And I sprout all the time. As a matter of fact, I got some sunflower sprouts I'm about to juice in my Nalmatu juicer. And I'm going to drink it, and I'm going to call my dad, and I'm going to say, guess what? This isn't on the news, but my meal is much better than your 25 unorganic, your unorganic cooked vegetables that you're eating. And I don't have any complaints about my health. And I feel amazing. Then I'm going to call my sister up, and I'm going to tell her the same thing. And hopefully one day they get it. And that our eyes are open. But I'm here. I make myself available to help people. I make myself available to answer questions. And I'm happy to talk to all of you about this. And I'm so thankful for everything you're all doing and Moselle's doing to put together these events. And I'm here. So I have a lot to share, and I have so many videos on my site, but on my YouTube channel and my website, rawlifehealthshow.com.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life, brighten up your life.